Good evening, listeners, and thank you for tuning into another episode of
Fear the Queer, a podcast that talks about everything on our gay agendas. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Josh.
And on today's episode, we will be discussing code switching.
But that does not talk about you gamers out there.
No, it is actually about a linguistic practice.
Too early.
Okay, well, we'll get to that. But before we begin, Josh, what are we drinking tonight?
Tonight we're drinking peach bellinis. Why? Because we're gay.
Oh.
And we like it.
Cheers, queers.
Cheers.
I like your butch tone in your voice. Are you code switching?
I was going to say, I think I just code switched.
Code switch, yeah.
Into hetero world.
You sound like a douche, so...
Aww,
yeah, you did.
Your breath stinks.
It's the peach bellini. Before we get to the heart of our gay agenda, we have another segment of
Read My Rainbow,
in which we talk about something happening in our queer little lives, which is our rainbow, and the other reads us for it. So Josh, would you like to begin tonight?
Sure.
All right, go for it.
Okay, so you know how I'm on the keto diet.
Yes, I've heard all about it. You're sponsored.
Yes.
It's the keto diet.
Ad.
Hashtag ad. Hashtag the keto success.
Hashtag no hash browns.
Hashtag, what, you can't have hash browns?
No.
Oh, no.
So actually it was funny because my boyfriend and I wanted to start it because we were just like, oh, let's eat healthier. It's very fat and protein heavy with very little carbs and no sugar. And when I first started, it felt great. I lost, I think, 6 pounds almost immediately within the first week. Yeah. And then 4th of July happened.
Oh.
Yeah.
Was that your downfall?
Oh, it was not only my downfall, but let me just tell you all the things that I ate that day.
Okay, list them off.
So at first I was just like, oh, well, I'm going to start with a small breakfast. So I just had blueberries and raspberries.
That's healthy.
Yeah, it is. And then one of our good friends, we were at the beach, was like, do you want to go to Taco Bell? I'm just like, ooh, I kind of do. So I had 2, what are those, big chalupa thingies?
The fried thing?
Yeah, it's like the
fried... yeah, that's on the keto diet.
It was like the fried tortilla inside of a taco.
Where you're just like, oh, it's... a fried tortilla inside a taco.
Right, and I was just like, well, maybe today will be my cheat day. So I also got nacho fries.
You went in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then I didn't realize that with every meal, you also get another taco.
So since it was the 4th of July and you went to Taco Bell, were you expecting to have fireworks later?
Well, I mean, maybe later.
Oh, Lord.
In the bathroom. Well, and it's funny, too. And then later that day, my boyfriend, who was actually working that day, is like, hey, I'm going to get dinner for us. And I'm like, okay, cool. He brings home Buffalo Wild Wings.
Oh, my God.
He brings home a 20-piece wing for us to share. And so...
the amount of chickens that had to die.
I know. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah. So, basically... my point is that I've been telling you I've been on the keto diet.
You've been lying.
I've been lying.
Well, I can read between the lines.
Yeah, and all the weight that I lost is creeping back again.
Oh no!
I know. I'm now skinny fat again.
Skinny fat. I mean, that's okay.
So relatable.
Yeah, skinny fat, relatable content.
Right.
Me too.
So that's my fucking rainbow. I've actually been lying to you this entire time that I've been eating healthy when I haven't been.
Here's what I think about that. I think that clearly lying doesn't work for you.
Right. We can see it.
We can see it. Also, we're drinking peach bellinis, which has sugar and shit in it. And when you're like, I haven't had any sugar, I'm like, this bitch is lying. You smell
I'm guzzling this.
You
down.
Smelled like a piece of kale earlier, and you're like, keto. No.
I tried. It was hard. It was hard. I did really well for a while.
2 hours.
Yeah, for 2 whole hours, I was very keto friendly.
For 2 whole hours when I was taking a nap, I was on the keto diet.
Yes.
And then I woke up.
Yes.
And
my boyfriend just got me a chicken wing platter.
So did you guys agree, okay, we're doing this, we might as well just it's the cheat day.
Yeah, I guess. We're just oh, it's a national holiday. And that national holiday has now turned into 10 days worth of...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, of not eating properly.
But okay, I mean, honestly, no tea, but I can't tell. I think you look skinny.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, a little skinny legend.
Oh my gosh, I'm so Mariah Carey right now.
I know, and honestly, I'm not that nice. So
that's true.
I would just be like, wow, the keto diet's really working for you.
All right, well, I guess that's what's going on in my gay little life. I got fat again.
Lord, don't fat shame yourself.
I'm just kidding.
You should shame yourself because you're a liar.
Yeah. And I clearly did not listen to our own body episode.
No. I'm like, love your body. He's like, yeah, sure. So the keto diet.
Right, yeah.
He's
yeah,
like,
sure.
I want to
Skinny.
I want to like hate myself a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
I will say, it's funny how a diet will actually make you feel really insecure about yourself because just watching your calories, watching your weight, watching like, it's just like, it makes you actually feel worse about yourself sometimes.
Oh, 100%. Like I was like in high school, I would watch how many calories. I had like a calorie diary type thing, like a little notepad. And I'd be like, all right, well, that's 700 calories. Jesus Christ.
Right.
And it just makes you feel shitty. I don't like it.
Yeah, I might try to find different ways
Well,
to
you could just
be
like
skinny.
be
like
healthy.
cocaine.
Well, oh no. Oh no. Well, would you call that diet a Diet Coke?
That was a very Kanye line.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Are you saying that I'm a rapper?
No.
Maybe like Santa's helper, like wrapping presents. That's
There you
as
go.
rappery as I can get.
Yeah. All right, so what's
Alright,
your read your rainbow?
All right, so you sort of know about it, but for our listeners, I did something that I haven't done in a very long time. No, it's not get on a treadmill.
Oh, so you washed your face.
I washed my face. I'm coming clean. Very Hillary Duff.
Aw.
Gay ally.
Gay.
Anyways, I actually went on a date.
Aw.
Yeah, no, why do you make it sound like I'm announcing my pregnancy? Like, oh, you're pregnant.
I mean, kinda.
Unlike you, I was not on the keto diet, and I love my tummy. But no, I went on a date, and I'm gonna kind of like condense this and give you the PG-13 version.
Don't condense.
well, there's a lot that happened. Basically, we went to like happy hour and got martinis. Great time. Went to another bar. I'm Gaga. I'm Lady Gaga.
Yeah.
Club, bus, plane, other place, club. Like literally, that was the date. Was just like going to a lot of different places.
Bar hopping.
And
I love that.
Bar hopping, yeah, and it was fun. Except he can like I can handle my liquor. Dear Lord Jesus, he can really drink.
Really?
He can like, oh my God, he was just like throwing them back like it was nobody's business. So eventually, yeah, he is.
Oh.
But okay, but like here's the thing. So he's super drunk, and I'm like, okay, we need to get you back to your house. And I knew that he like lived with a roommate in an apartment, and I was like, well, let's get like a car, get back to his house. We get him upstairs. I say we and I'm just talking about myself. It's me and my multiple personalities. So like I get him upstairs.
You and Coyle.
Me and Coyle Porker.
Yeah.
I get him upstairs, and he's like pounding on the door. I'm like, why is this bitch not like unlocking it? And I mean, I'm pretty drunk. He's super drunk. But I was like in the mom mode. So we get inside, and his roommate is like, oh my God, why are you pounding on the door? He's like, I lost my keys. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Shit.
So I walk inside, and his roommate goes, who are you? And I'm like, I was on a date with said your roommate. Yes.
Yeah.
And he's just like, all right, well, come on in. So I go inside, and my date is like really drunk. He's just like, he's pacing back and forth, and he's frustrated, and he can't get into his bedroom. And I'm like, why can't he get into his bedroom? He's like, I locked my door. And he's like real upset and like, oh. And I'm like, wait, why did he lock his door? And the roommate goes, oh, we lock our doors because we steal each other's clothes. And I'm like, oh. Right as I say that, kaboom! He kicks in his door.
Oh my God.
And like strips down to his underwear and flops into his bed.
Oh, this is so cute.
I was like, this is love.
Right.
But
No.
yeah, and so the roommate just stares at me, and I'm like, I don't know what to do right now. And the roommate's like, he'll probably want you to stay. So I did. It was a lot of just
You
sleeping.
stayed?
I stayed, but I couldn't sleep.
Did he kick you down too?
Oh, I wish. Check out our Kinks episode. No,
Right.
I love getting kicked in the face. No, I was shocked because I was like, okay, the door doesn't shut.
Oh yeah, because he just broke
He
it.
just broke it. So I was like, okay, so I basically, this is like at midnight, and we've been drinking since like 5:30. So like it was a lot. It was a lot. A lot of like, it was like martini.
Another martini.
Another martini. Another martini.
Yeah.
Another martini. Vodka soda. Shot of Fireball. Another martini. And basically, I was just like, oh my God, I was so drunk. You ever get so drunk that you're like, I can't fall asleep?
Yeah.
Especially when I'm like, I don't know this person that well. And I'm just like, I'm just going to keep my hands and feet to myself and try to fall asleep. So fast forward, he gets up in the morning. I leave, and I'm just kind of like, wow, what a wild night. Cut to some recent developments. So I've been like trying to hang out with him and stuff like that, and maybe he'll listen to this podcast.
For date number 2?
For date number 2, and like just like based on our schedules, like we couldn't meet up, and I was trying to like get him to go to a movie, but then like he works like it's a whole thing. So I was like scrolling on Facebook, and
Oh, you have him on Facebook?
I have him on Facebook.
Oh.
Because I was like, oh, I like this person. He's like nice and funny.
Oh yeah, it sounds like a sweet gem.
Well, okay, I knew that what happened was kind of crazy, but
Kinda.
okay, I have a thing for I
You have a
like
thing for
messy.
broken boys.
I love the craziness because I'm like, wow, you're so wild. We literally talked about this in one podcast.
It reminds me of my childhood.
It does. I'm just like, wow, are we gonna yell at each other next and say how we need to pay bills?
Right.
Shout out to mom and dad. But no, I was like, okay, so what is he up to now? And it said he's in a relationship. I know.
With a locksmith?
With Oh my God, that was good.
Thank you.
That was really good. Yeah, maybe he had the key to his heart.
Right.
It was that's a moment that happened.
So he has a boyfriend now?
He has a full-fledged BF.
Oh, what happened?
Maybe he kicked down his door. I don't know.
Maybe. Aw. Did you want to date him?
No, but it'd be kind of fun to like have like a summer fling, like summer lovin' had me a blast. Summer lovin'
it's
happened
like
so
the
fast.
middle of July already. You should have had that a while ago.
Well, I was trying for it, but I think it's I'm back out on the dating scene, and the first date
Crickets.
the first date I go on is literally kicking in his bedroom door because he locked himself out. He did. Okay, moral of the story though, he did find his keys though.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so that's good.
Sure. So, moral of the story is, you just went on another crazy ass fucking date.
I know, and he's younger than me, so I think like
Wow, shocking.
I know. I have
19,
a young
20?
No, I have we got into so many bars with this fake ID. It was
Right.
real rebellious and cool.
Well, I'm gonna say I'm not surprised. It's another good story to add under your belt.
Yes. It's another notch in my bedpost.
Yeah.
From gnawing on it because I'm just so sexually frustrated.
Oh.
No, I'm joking.
He says with tears in his eyes.
No, that's just sweat. I'm really hot. So let's get into the heart of our gay agenda. As I said earlier, we are talking about code switching, which is usually referred to as like a linguistics term.
Go on.
Well, okay, because people will go in between like two dialects or two types of speech mannerisms. A lot of people said it was like if they spoke multiple languages, it's kind of like Spanglish.
Right.
But as we
Love that movie.
Oh, Adam Sandler. But as we've gone on in culture, I noticed it like black people talking about code switching between like white peers and then like their black friends.
Right.
And I
Their
thought
professional workplace voice.
right. And it's kind of like a survival mode. And then I thought about like, okay, I think queer people actually code switch.
Oh yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, okay, so let's think of an example of where you would code switch in a public setting. Let's do a bar.
Okay, let's do a bar.
Yeah.
What kind of bar?
Well, that's the thing. We have the gay bars, which even that has subcategories because we have the clubby gay bars, we have
Right.
the butchy gay bars, and then we have the really effeminate gay bars.
Yeah.
And then we also have straight bars. And
who goes to those?
right? Which I know it's rare. So I guess, do you change your appearance when it's more of like a heterosexual atmosphere? Which, there are a two-part question of this.
Okay.
Do you change yourself in a more heterosexual atmosphere? And then two, what the fuck is a heterosexual atmosphere?
Oh, I know. Well, first of all, I think heterosexual atmosphere is just our society in general because it's built on patriarchy, heterosexuality is the quote unquote norm of things. I mean, some people argue that, sexuality, all of it's fake. That's a
Okay.
whole, I'm like, hey, queer theory, like, I don't want to talk about those. But anyways,
It's just like, okay.
but
sweet.
I do think that, like, depending on where I go, like, I'll wear, I don't know, a little bit more, like, toned down, like, like man clothes.
Okay.
Even though, like, I feel like my toned down version of man clothes is still, like, a printed button down shirt. Mm-hmm. And like, I don't really like going to straight bars. It's not like I mean, sometimes I go to gay bars and I'm like, this is not my thing.
Right.
What about you?
I think for me, I definitely notice. I don't feel like it's almost like secondhand sometimes. Like, it's just like you don't realize that you're doing it, but like you notice that, like, oh, I'm not crossing my legs when I'm sitting down, or I'm not using my hands to gesture every 2 seconds. These are all things that are just like very normal things to do. Yet at the same time, it's like considered gay to do that.
Right. And I mean, like, it is kind of like switching between two cultures in a way, because it's kind of like, oh, well, in like the straight world, I am going to lower my voice. I'm going to talk a little bit with less, just more straightforwardness and just be a little more serious like that. But but in gay world, I'm eccentric.
World two,
I'm
gay
like world, the real world,
Yeah.
gay world.
Yeah.
I'm more eccentric. I talk with my hands, and I think it's actually gotten better as I've become an adult because I just don't care as much. But I definitely think when I was younger, I experienced it like all the fucking time.
Right.
Like, when do you like recall the earliest memory of that?
Well, I don't know. I don't have a very good memory at all. But I always think...
Hey, you forgot you were on the keto diet.
Right. Well, I think, like, it all starts with middle school and high school when bullying starts to become more prominent. Like, when I think of things, I always think of, like, oh, you talk like a girl. Or,
Oh, God, yeah.
Or, like, when you had to play with the boys in PE and you had to, like, butch yourself up to, like, fit in.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Mama, you should have seen how I butch myself up. I literally just like hunch shoulders, but I have like a hunchback problem. I just like hunch shoulders and just like throw the ball to me, guys. Yeah, not working.
Really?
Were you sporty?
No, I was not sporty.
You weren't
I was
sporty.
very much like, I was screaming on the inside every time they had to play dodgeball because I'm like, I can't catch, I can't throw.
And now he loves getting balls to the face.
I do. All kinds of balls.
Oh, softballs,
Big
basketballs,
balls.
footballs,
Hairy balls.
beach balls.
Beach balls.
Keep it in the Speedo, honey. I do think like when you're younger, I remember being like a little kid, like little, and it wasn't until I went to kindergarten actually that people started to point it out to me because my parents weren't ever like they never thought me playing with like Barbies and dolls and shit was like a weird thing. They never thought that like my theatricality was a weird thing. But it wasn't until like, kindergarten, first, second grade that you start to get called out on those things. Like, why are you playing with girls?
Right, like, why
do
are
you
only friends with girls?
Yeah, why do you sound like that? Why do you jump rope? Because I don't have fucking hand-eye coordination.
Yeah.
Shelly,
My mom actually would tell me things. She's like, girls do that. Boys should not be doing that.
Oh, God, it's so hard. Like, I don't see myself being a parent, but apparently. But I do think that if I was, I would not be policing how my child expresses because it's so fucking damaging. Like, my parents never really did that. I did have a moment where I had like this Barbie when I was little, and my dad took it from me.
Oh.
I probably have talked about this on here. But it was an Ariel Barbie, like Little Mermaid.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God.
And he took it?
I miss her.
Did she have legs?
She did, but she also had a tail that you like could like hide the legs. But yeah, no, I think that like you start to find out a lot about yourself even before like the world is already telling you you're supposed to act this way before you even realize it.
Right. Yeah, because I think for the most part, you kind of just do your own thing. You are like, oh, like, I want to go play with the girls. Let's go play with dolls. Let's go play dress up. Let's go do this.
Let's go play house.
And then the teacher will pull you aside, be like, you need to play with Bradley over here.
And I'm just like, Bradley smells like paste.
Right?
Bradley keeps looking at me like he's about to cut me with his little scissors. Like, I don't want to play with him.
But I think that definitely, like, translates when you grow up. Like you automatically have that fear of rejection if I don't act this way.
Yes.
So I do think that it's kind of inadvertently like inside of all of us.
So it's kind of like we code switch at an early age to survive in a way. Even inadvertently, because I don't think that, like, when I was in high school, I don't think I realized I like lowered my voice and I didn't talk with my hands, like things like that.
Really?
In high school. Oh no, I never, like, I was not this fabulous in high school. I mean, I was, but it was like a different kind of fabulous.
Right. I just remember I would always make sure to choose things that always made me seem neutral. Like I would never choose
Like grays and
flashy
blacks
colors
and tans. I was making a joke, but you were like 100% serious.
Oh yeah.
Like completely neutral color clothes.
Yeah, basically. I remember in middle school I only had like browns, blacks, tans.
Oh my, how clinical.
Right, I know. And then it wasn't until like I think high school when I was able to like branch out and where like I would only wear things if I saw it on someone else.
Okay.
Like
so you're
guy.
like, oh, that's like what a guy wears.
Right, in a way.
And you're like, I'm gonna run to American Eagle and get some jeans, get a polo shirt, butch it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Isn't that just, it's so weird to think about now.
It is, but I mean, I will say this. I definitely still only hung out with the girls, which I don't know necessarily if that is like part of what we're talking about here, but I just naturally gravitated to the girls anyway.
Well, do you think that maybe code switching, even between like all the different genders, and for the sake of the story and talking, we'll just say like more male and female genders, even though we know there's more than that. But when you're young, there's like the boys and the girls, and it's like always gay panic. You've seen those memes,
right?
It's like always gay
Gay
panic.
sweating.
Yeah, which I'm doing right now. I'm very warm, but
Under boob sweat.
oh my god, I do.
Oh no,
I do.
Ladies and gentlemen, he has under boob
I
sweat.
have under boob sweat. Anyways,
It is a very hot summer day.
it's a hot summer day, baby. But I think that like you naturally will fall into like, oh well, I feel more comfortable with the girls, and even that you're like. Sometimes code switching is part of building community. Like, I mean, nowadays, I think I get even more, like, fabulous, like, going out to the club or, like, going to a drag show. And, like, you know, your vocabulary and your vernacular doesn't always lend it to be saying, like, yes, and shade. And, like, but when you're with, like, the gay community, it's, like, it encourages you to, I guess, embrace that side of yourself.
Yeah.
That society and a lot of your life you've had to like push down.
So let's say hypothetically you walk into a room and you are introduced to a whole group of people you don't know. There's not a single person that you don't know in there.
Okay.
And how do you feel like you try to come off with your first impressions?
Oh man. Okay, so like when I was younger, I used to like try to be, I guess, kind of neutral. Like you were saying, like I would just be like, oh, hey, how's it going? Nice to meet you. And now I do it, but I'm like, hey, how's it going? And like the voice is a little bit up here, and it's like a little bit like, oh, that's a gay voice.
Oh, so you actually
and
play.
now, oh yeah, I play into it because especially like I guess in workplace situations or at parties, if I'm like being introduced to people I don't really know, I just want there to be no confusion. Like,
Gotcha.
yes, I am a gay. I am queer. Like,
That's just how you walk into the room. I'm a gay!
and they're like, wrong party. But like, I just think, you know, I don't want there to be any confusion because there's something about when people, you know, start, like if you're like, hey, how's it going? Nice to meet you, blah, blah, blah. And then they turn around and they're like, so is Kyle gay? Like, I've had that happen and like, it's not fun. I'd rather just be like,
Oh, you'd rather have them just know.
yeah, I'm just like, oh, I'm faggoty excellence. Like, yes. And then, but of course, when you, like, when I put that on, like, I code switch to be someone's idea of like, oh, he's wonderful.
Fabulous.
He's fabulous. And doing so sometimes is really harmful when it's outside of a queer community setting because then
it opens up the invitation.
It opens up the invitation that people, like straight people, walk up to and they're like, yes, sister, like queen, yes. And I'm just like, okay.
Well, I would
like,
say not even straight people. I feel like queer people can also can like fall into that
I
too.
mean, I agree with that, but I think that there's, at least for me, there's more of like a comfort in the community of like, oh yes, we both are fabulous and queer.
Okay, fair. Yeah.
Where like if someone who isn't necessarily part of the community comes
Who
up
then
to me,
goes like, yes, honey.
because that's what they think I talk like, and it's like, no, I did that because I wanted you to just like,
It's my shield.
it's my shield. There we go. Code switching is all about having a shield. Do you think you've ever like code switched between like, because you're Asian, do you feel like you've had to code switch in white communities?
Well, you can't really do much about your physical appearance, so there's not much I can really do to like change that.
Sure.
I feel like
What about like in Iowa? Like, did you feel like you had to play to a certain standard in order for people to, I don't know, accept you? Or
I felt like I
did you
tried to
seriously, or-
Americanize myself as much as I could because because a lot of times people just look at me as like other with my skin tone, and especially when I was in college, because we had a lot of international students who would take classes there, and they would be from China, Korea. They would have a thick accent, and they clearly were not Americanized. And so whenever I spoke or whenever I talked or things like that, you would get comments like, "Oh wow, you speak so well," or like, "Where are you from?"
Oh, wow.
And like, when did you transfer? Things
Yeah.
like that. Yeah. And so I felt like, especially during college, my code switching for my race was the fact that I wanted to dress as Americanized as possible. So like I would like,
Old Navy American flag wear.
right. I was just like, I basically was a walk-in Old Navy store. Like
God.
but I would like wear like Adidas and Nike and like very,
Yeah.
I mean, I know Adidas is German, but like,
Yeah. Did you ever feel though, like, since there was a lot of international students, did they ever think that you were also an international student?
oh yeah, people
So then
would come
you
up
end
to-
up like code switching between like, I'm not an international student, but then they think that you are, and it's like both
oh yeah,
like
you would get it.
white students and international students think that you are something that you're not.
Yeah, you would get it on both sides because people would come up to me, like international students would come up to me and they would talk to me in Chinese or Korean or a language I wouldn't recognize, and I would just kind of blankly stare, be like, "I'm sorry, I don't speak that," and they just kind of like, "Oh," and they like kind of walk away.
They're
And-
like confused about it.
yeah, well, I don't think they meant to be insulting. They were just
No,
more
no.
like, "Oh," and they just kind of like ran away embarrassed,
They're just like asking for the bathroom. You're like, I don't speak that.
Get away from me.
They're like, excuse me, where's
I'm
the
trying to eat my stir fry in peace.
They're like, excuse me, where's the bathroom? And you're like, I don't speak that.
Yeah. It's like this white old lady.
Yeah.
I don't speak your language.
And besides, I don't use the bathroom. I'm constipated.
Yeah, constantly.
I'm full of shit.
But in terms of my queerness, I've been told by a few people that I could be seen as a gray area, which I don't really know what that means. And
You did say you like to wear neutrals.
right? Well, it just kind of is weird because it's like I feel like with my first impressions of people, I usually just try to just be as simple as possible. I don't really like to talk about anything deep with anybody. I don't really go into,
Sure.
I just talk about pleasantries for the time being. And so I'm just still kind of very neutral. I guess that is kind of code switching because it doesn't
It
really
is.
allow anyone to come into your world.
Right. And
I think that's my shield.
Yeah.
Unless I feel comfortable with you, I'm just like, stay away.
yeah, and I mean, how I introduce myself to people here in Chicago is different than how I introduce myself to people in, like, let's say Michigan. Like, unless I know the people or if they're queer people, if it's like some kind of extended family that I haven't seen in years, and they're just like, "Hi, how's it going?" I'm like, "I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you doing?" Like, I keep it almost professional.
Yeah.
Where here I'm just like, la-di-da, I'm loud and silly.
You know what's hard for me? Keeping eye contact with people I'm not comfortable with.
That's why he looks away from me all the time. Just kidding. He is staring me down. Oh my God.
No, I like when I first meet people and I kind of feel like, oh, they might judge me. I actually will just glance at them really quick. I'll be like, "Hi, nice to meet you," and then I just look away and I don't make eye contact with them again.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I usually try to avoid conversation with them afterwards.
I like making eye contact because I like them to notice my eyes.
Oh,
It's my favorite asset about myself.
they're bloodshot.
You're like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I've had a really hard night."
I don't know. Like, I guess with my code switching, it's more the sense of like I just refuse to give anything personal out, just so that way people don't really know who I am.
Okay.
Yeah,
It
if that makes sense.
does kind of make sense.
Yeah.
I think that when I code switch, well, it's like inadvertent. Like, I don't even realize I'm doing it necessarily. But I think it has become just like second nature, but it's like people's idea of who I am as a person. And I think everyone does that.
Yeah.
Whether you're white, black, queer, straight, whatever, like you present yourself in an idea in a way that you think other people perceive you.
Right.
Which is kind of damaging because
I mean, there's different motives behind each person, like why
Right.
they would do it. Like, I feel like a lot of times queer people in general will do it just because they're afraid of being prejudiced or like being
hated against.
hated against just because of who they are. I don't know. Well, I was gonna ask you a question this too, because I was gonna ask, do you feel like you even code switch even within the queer community?
Definitely. Like, I think that like there are certain bars that like I know I can navigate better if I'm not as like flashy. Like, okay, so Friday night I went out and I had like literal gold glitter on my eyelids. And I went to a bar that isn't like, it was a gay bar, but it wasn't like anti glitter. Like, there was like a drag queen hosting and stuff like that, but it's not known as like I don't know. There's a lot of people just like in t-shirts and shorts. And
So it's more of like a subdued bar.
yeah. And I show up with my glitter on, and that was like one of the few times I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't switch into kind of like I'm wearing a t-shirt and shorts sort of thing. Like I didn't dress down.
Right.
So I don't know. When you get older, I think going out to just like queer spaces, there's some that I'm going to dress more for because I'm like, oh, it's more of an accepting, more of like a creative space. They're gonna get this, and I feel very comfortable with that. But then when they're more of like, I don't know, like a lot of like cis white gay guys that have like perfect bodies, I'm like, all right, I'm going to kind of like tone it down, maybe wear something just like easy, still pretty queer. Yeah, I think even within queer spaces, you have to code switch sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, I know that I have a tendency to always try to be like the funny one, like the funny gay friend. And it does benefit me because like when I meet people, they're like, oh my God, Kyle is so funny. He's so easy to talk to. And I'm like, exactly. I am fun and easy to talk to, but also I'm having a panic attack behind these doors. Like, I'm like, this is all just a shield. So I don't know. It takes a lot sometimes.
Yeah.
It's a lot of energy, I think, for marginalized people to put up a front.
Oh yeah, for sure. And again, I want to like try to reiterate. It's not just simply about putting up a front just because you are feeling insecure about yourself as a person. We live in a day and age where violence is still prominent in the queer, like against queer people. Trans people are murdered every single day.
Yeah.
You know, you still have people who live in small towns in the Midwest who are fearful for their lives just because of who they are as people.
Exactly.
So there is a difference between putting up a wall just because you're insecure about who you are as a person versus putting up a wall to survive. And I just want to kind of reiterate that because I don't want people to think, oh, this is like a self-loathing episode. I don't want people to think like, like you're talking about, dumbing down your queerness just because you aren't proud of who you are. Well, and it has nothing to do with that, really.
Nothing to do with self-loathing. You can love yourself and also be aware that you need to be safe.
Exactly.
Like I think that and also it's not necessarily like thinking it through and being like, oh, I'm putting up a front. You switch into the vernacular, you switch into how you talk, you switch into the mannerisms.
Right.
Very easily. That's all what code switching is. Because if you're a marginalized person from a very young age, you've figured out, how do I survive in a world that does not always accept me or is not always ready to accept me? So again, whether it's based on the color of your skin, your sexuality, your gender, whatever it might be, we're used to it.
Right.
So when people who are, let's say, like straight, cis, and white, they might be like, well, you're being fake. No, it's not being fake. Being fake would be like, wow, I love your skirt. Thanks, it was my mom's in the 80s. Ooh, so vintage. That's the ugliest effing skirt I've ever seen. That's a fake-ass bitch.
Well, I mean, you still are a fake-ass bitch then.
It's a Mean Girls reference.
I know.
Oh, I didn't know. I thought you thought I was just like a brilliant comic writer.
No, I never think that. Well, okay, so now I want to turn around and actually ask you this question. When do you think code switching is actually beneficial to help you in your favor? Because I have an answer for this.
Oh, okay. In my favor, I think when people meet me and they're expecting a certain kind of response from me, like, especially if it's like a friend of a friend, they're like, oh, it's Kyle. He's this or he's that. And I might not realize what they've heard about me. I don't know. Everyone's talking about me. At least I think that they are, but they probably not. They're probably like, who? But I will give them what they want.
Sure.
They want
They want a performance.
They want a performance, darling. I'm going to give them a performance, darling. And then
they're like, it's 4 a.m.
And they're like, it's 4 a.m, Kyle, please go home. I'm like, take the shot, don't be a loser. But I think that
shoving a funnel down their throat.
Yeah, I'm just like, drink it. But
drink the bleach.
Drink the bleach. You no. I was just like, ha ha ha, bleach. No.
Is that a Get Out reference?
No. No, oh my God. I feel like a 2-year-old learning my first word.
No. Well, I was going
Well, what do
to say,
you
to
think?
answer my question, I think when you are in customer service, especially since we're bartenders, I feel like code switching is actually really beneficial sometimes for us because we have to manipulate people into giving us tips because that's the only way you can survive.
That's true. So when you see like a straight guy come up like he's just like, hey bro, what's up? Can I get a Pilsner?
Right, exactly. And then you're just like, oh yeah, sure. Like, you'll give him like a bro head nod or, you'll...
I mean, I don't. You know what I do that I think is like my like go-to standard, like, you doing okay? Because I'll walk over and I'm like, hey, you doing okay? You need anything else? And they're like, no, we're doing great. Thank you. And I go, great. And I give them a thumbs up. Like
that is the straightest thing you could ever do.
Such a dork. I'm like, good job. Like,
good job. I'm so proud of you.
I'm so proud of you for drinking.
Yeah.
Like,
I think for me, a head nod is always like an indicator of like, you're good. Like,
how do you do the head nod? Do I do the head nod? When we work together, have you ever noticed me do the head nod?
No, you always like kind of like shake your head like enthusiastically.
And the thumbs up.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, I can get you a Prosecco. That sounds great.
Right. And I'm just like, why are you kissing their ass?
Well, it's
like
code switching.
Right, I guess. Yeah, I was going to say, because there's a difference between, let's say, a group of sweet gay men who are around our age who are coming in to see a movie versus a group of bros who just came up from the axe throwing competition.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what's actually the worst thing to code switch to, which I'm sorry to say this.
Straight women.
They are the hardest people.
Let's say it one more time. Straight women.
I'm sorry. They are the hardest people to have to code switch to.
It's because they'll be like, oh my God, I love your hair color. Oh my God, I love your nails.
Because there's something about...
And it feels condescending. It feels in a way that's like, oh, look at this little gay boy. Like, he's one of us.
There's
like,
more
he
like,
gets it.
Yeah, there's more like microaggressions with straight women that they think that's okay to do because they also are a marginalized group.
Straight white women.
Yeah. And I get it. Like, they also are a marginalized group, which I totally understand that we have a privilege where we will never understand what it's like to be a woman. But I also feel like, weirdly enough, straight white women especially are the ones who will make comments the most. You've experienced too that some of the things that people have said to me about my race behind the bar.
Oh my God. One time they asked Josh, they're like, so where are you from? Mm-hmm. And Josh was like, what did you say?
I was just like, well, I'm from Iowa, but I'm Korean if that's what you're asking.
And she was like, oh, I love my Hyundai.
Right.
What the fuck?
Mm-hmm. And then that guy, well, actually, this is different, but he's a guy. But this guy comes in one time, and I set down a menu for him. I was just like, hi, here's a menu for you. I'll be with you in just a moment. And he goes, arigato. And I'm just
Jesus.
I was like, excuse me? And he's just like, you're Japanese, right? I'm just like, no. And he's just like, oh, well, where are you from? And I was like, I'm South Korean, if that's what you're trying to ask. And he was just like, oh, cool. I just spent 2 years in Korea, man.
And then he said something in Korean.
Yeah, I was like, I don't speak Korean. Get the fuck. Oh,
like, who does that? Who? Mm-hmm. It's just it's the assumption. Makes an ass out of you.
Right, exactly.
And but mostly you.
Yeah. And Kyle wants to include himself in that one. But I do think that code switching for straight white women are probably the hardest because you almost have to play up your gayness for them in order for them to be satisfied.
It's really hard, too, because I feel like if it's a customer service thing, I'm just like, okay, yeah. Like one time this girl walked up and she was like talking, she was like, oh my God, like I'm going to go see a movie by myself. I'm so like embarrassed. I can't believe I'm seeing a movie by myself. Usually my boyfriend's here, but he's like visiting family right now. And I was like, oh, okay, work. And immediately she was just like, gay. So I didn't say anything. I wasn't just like, I'm a fucking homosexual. That that did not come out of my mouth. I was just like, oh, here you go. Like, here's your drink. Like, it's going to be this much. Oh, you want to start a tab? Okay, she's gonna be here a while. So she has a few drinks, and I'm helping other people. And I walk back, and she was like, "You're so cute. Have you ever thought about working at like a gay bar?" And I'm just like, girl, do you think I could survive? I can barely survive like this bar.
Right, and
like,
we close at 10:30.
And we close at 10:30, and I'm still like hoofing it. Like, I was like, oh, well, you know, like I know a lot of gay bars in Chicago. Like, you have to like know somebody to get into it, and it's very competitive because it's like really good money. And she's like, oh, you just like be so good. You just like have that attitude. And I'm just like, girl, what attitude? Like,
right, what is that supposed to mean?
What is that supposed to mean? And I was like, both, it was like a compliment because it's like, you're so cute. You could filter your way into a club or a society that she thinks I'm supposed to be a part of. But, and not that I'm not, but she also is assuming that like this, whatever fabulousness or whatever, like, yes, honey, that
Yes, queen.
Yes, queen. I'm just like, what? I don't understand. I was like, I literally just served you like a Malbec.
Right. I didn't do much.
And she's acting like I death dropped on the bar. Like, like she's acting like it was
What
weird.
you could never do, because you're not that kind of girl.
I'm not that kind of girl. I would do it on the ground. I would just fall on the ground. I would just drop dead on the ground.
Oh, security.
Millennial humor.
Yeah.
Nihilist. Yeah, no, so I think that does happen. It's really hard. It is easier sometimes to talk to straight men because they're
I agree.
Because and I have a tendency
That's because they don't tend to, what's the word, like fetishize you?
Yeah.
I don't even know if that's the right term.
Well, they don't make it into like a thing. And I will say that it's taken me so many years to even talk to any straight men.
The audacity.
The audacity, because I grew up with being made fun of, and there's like this queer trauma that I think I have, and I think a lot of queer people have towards heterosexual people, and especially heterosexual man, because like after you've been called like a faggot, and after you've been like shamed for your appearance and your mannerisms,
or you'll notice I'm snickering about you behind your back.
Oh. Or in front of your back.
Or in front of
like,
of your back.
It'll just be in front. Like, I'll be like turned around, and they're like, ha 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 ha. That's my straight laugh. Ha 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 ha. It still sounds gay. It's gonna take a long time for me to, or it did take a long time for me to even trust straight people outside of those that are my family, at least straight men. Now, when they walk up and I'm going to serve them, or if I talk to them at a party or whatever it might be, I'm just like, oh, hey, how's it going? And they're so nice. And I'm just like, wow, okay, thank you for proving me wrong, because I've spent like, you know, the past 28 years
like
kind of being terrified, of straight guys. And now the thing that's more terrifying to me is when a straight one walks up and is like, yes, queen! And I'm just like,
right, oh my God, I love you so much.
And I'm just like,
can you like flop your fan for me?
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm using my fan because I'm warm.
Because he literally has underboob sweat.
I have underboob.
It's growing.
Take a drink every time Josh says underboob sweat.
Underboob sweat.
That's at least 2 shots. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Oh my God, he is lactating,
Oh my God,
ladies
I'm
and gentlemen.
lactating. I never wear light colors. I'm wearing a gray today, one of Josh's favorites, since it's a neutral.
Well, it's no longer gray. I could tell you that much.
There's a beautiful ombre effect underneath my titties.
Yeah. All right, so I got one last question for you.
Yes.
Before we get going. So, my question for you is, we've known each other for about almost 4 years now, actually. Give me your first impression of what you thought of me, and I will give you my first impression of what I thought of you.
Okay.
And like, where are we code switching in front of each other?
My first impression was you were like working very hard, and you were like very like in it to win it. And then when I finally like forced you to say hi and introduce yourself to me. I was like, hey, how are you? I'm Kyle. Because you were just like not, like you wouldn't look at me. You would make eye contact. And I like had to like put myself in front of you and be like, hi, I'm Kyle. Blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh, hi, nice to meet you. And I was like, oh, he's like very bubbly. And there was just like a really like immediate positive energy and kind of that feeling of like, oh, okay, now we're talking. I must be liked. But it was like until you were forced to confront me or I confronted you, it was just kind of like, I don't need anyone. So it was like a little cold. And then it was like, oh, no, we're good.
Right.
I don't know. That was my first impression.
Yeah. I think my first impression of you, too, was just the fact that I was just like, I've noticed this entire conversation, there was not one moment of silence between the two of us. And it was just like, he just has something to talk about every single time. And he wants to just keep the conversation going, which is totally fine.
You're like, and he won't shut up.
It's totally fine.
I really need to leave. I need to go to the bathroom.
Well, I was like, it's fine because I enjoyed talking to you and it was really fun. But I've noticed that there is not one moment of silence between the two of us.
And I think that's me, like, I do that with new people because I want to just be like, this is everything, let's be friends. And I could also kind of like, I try not to like assume people's sexuality or gender, but I was like, I see her switching her hips. Like, this might be a new, like, good Judy. I don't know. And then I met you and you're like, yeah, so girlfriends. And I was like, what?
I was not out at the time, I will say that. But it came out a month later.
I straight up was like the date I went on and kicked in the door to his closet. I was just like, get out of here.
Get out of the closet.
Yeah.
I was just like, yay! It was locked.
It was locked. My roommate steals my sexuality sometimes.
Well, yeah, it's funny too because I've been told that I'm cold, like, and I'm not the friendliest person when you first like see me.
It could also just be your face because you have a very like serious like,
I'm grumpy.
I'm grumpy.
Maybe. But I do think that part of it is like a put on mask of just like, you know what? If people don't know who I am, I'm not going to have to ever really interact with them. And then they don't have really have to know who I am. And that is my code switching.
I think that's the difference between us because it's the same effect.
Oh, yeah.
Because you put on a mask to be like, I'm a tough bitch, don't talk to me. And I put on like I'm jubilant and happy so that people don't actually get to know me as close as they think that they can.
Right.
Like, I only think there's like a handful of people that truly know who I am, and the rest think that they know me, and they've maybe had like, you think you know me, bitch.
Yeah.
Like,
you think you're clever.
You think you're clever. But like, you don't really get to know someone until those walls come down, and then there's no code switching.
Until you sob on my back porch while throwing up at the same time because you just had too much Fireball.
God, let me tell you, girls and gays.
I don't know if we ever told anyone that story. Like when we first became actually really close.
He was feeding me Fireball.
Well, no, our friend brought Fireball over, and it was St. Patrick's Day. And
my least favorite holiday.
Oh, yeah. And we're
Talk
just
about
like,
code switching.
Right.
Code switching to Irish.
Right. And we were just all like hanging out, talking, like having a good time, just sharing personal stories. But then all of a sudden it just got really deep out of nowhere. I think it was the Fireball. We'd had like
the
way
Fireball
too many
hit me.
Yeah, we had way too many shots. Next thing I know, Kyle's throwing up all over my backyard. And I was trying to clean him up. I was taking care of him.
He needed fertilizer.
Yeah. And then we just had a really deep talk about past trauma. And then ever since then, we're just like, oh, we're good.
I mean, I joke. I'm always like, hey, what's your trauma? But it's like when you finally figure out like why people act the way they do, what makes them tick, you can respect them as a person. Like, you're like, oh, okay. Like, and sometimes the idea that someone's not being genuine is just because they have lived a life.
Oh, yeah. I've always said, like, give me your deepest, darkest secrets and we'll be best friends, or I want nothing to do with you. Like, if you don't give me that deepness right away and, like, get rid of the walls, which is kind of funny because I'm being hypocritical right now.
Could you see it in my face?
Yeah, I was like...
I was just like, this sis. So Josh was always like, tell me your deepest, darkest secrets. Guess how long it took me for him to tell me anything that was deep and dark and secrety? Like 2 years.
Secrety? Me?
Yes, 2 years.
2 years?
2 years.
Really?
Until you broke down and cried.
I felt like, oh, I didn't know that.
You were crying about other things. You're crying about like how the chicken nuggets were taking too long, and
it was sad. That was a sad time.
You're like, oh no, chicken nuggets in the oven too long.
I think. Well, I just think for me, it just makes me feel more comfortable being able to then open up back to you.
I agree with that. I think like you're like, wow, they're being really vulnerable. I can be a little vulnerable. And then then you start to learn things, and you're like, whew.
Right.
Wow.
Wow, we are fucked up.
Well, everyone's fucked up.
That's true.
Everyone's fucked up. It's
What's
just
your
like,
trauma?
what? Don't you want a drama? Want a drama? Don't you want a drama? My favorite flavor is orange.
Orange trauma.
Orange trauma. Oh, goodness.
All right. Well, I think we had a pretty good conversation about code switching.
And I think those who didn't know what code switching is maybe learned something, maybe made you think a little bit.
Yeah.
Read up more on the topic. There's so many articles out there, especially recently about...
Because I feel like we barely hit the surface of
Oh, well, and we're always talking from like a personal place.
Right.
So I would say definitely look up stuff because there's so many articles out there, especially recently, about even like politicians code switching to interact with marginalized communities in order to seem, I don't know, more
To get your vote.
to get your vote.
Right.
And it's like
Rock the vote.
and some people think like, okay, is it pandering? Is it code switching? Do they actually care? You be the judge.
Right. So it's a tricky topic to cover because, again, it comes off as like, oh, well, you're just being fake. Oh, you're just being, like, disingenuous. It's like, well, not really. There's
Yeah.
a lot more, there's way more layers to it than just that.
Definitely. It's like an ogre.
Yeah.
Like an onion.
An
It
ogre
has-
onion.
An ogre onion. It has layers. Shrek, get out me swamp.
Get out to me swamp.
Get out me swamp!
Broom, broom.
What I say to boys, get out me swamp!
Broom. Okay, so for anyone who is listening who would like to give us a shout out about, what they go through when they code switch, or have they ever experienced code switching before, let us know in the comments. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Fear the Queer Podcast.
You can also email us at fearthequeerpodcast@gmail.com.
You can also listen to our podcast on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
Everywhere, basically.
Yes, and this is a new era for us since we're releasing one every week.
We're doing it every week, so get ready. You can listen to us. You can feel like we're best friends, and then you can see us in person and be like, oh my God, Kyle and Josh. And I'm going to be like, oh God,
who are you?
The stalker that I've always wanted.
Code switch immediately.
Switch immediately into our podcast people, our
Right.
podcast personality.
Oh my God, is this code switching?
Are we code switching?
Oh no.
Well, I think. Oh no. Well, we're about to switch off this mic.
Very true. Our lizard people insides are coming out very soon.
Yeah, I'm gonna rip off this mask and be the crocodile or alligator that's in Humboldt Park.
It's
Chicago
an
right now.
alligator.
Alligator? I don't know. That's not. I don't know.
Anyway, I'm Josh.
And I'm Kyle, and
we're
Fear the Queer. Bye.
Bye.